What happens when a billionaire who hates marriage gets married in a bar to a complete stranger while drunk? One careless question, one raised hand, one beer too many. They wake up married, trapped by a signature, regretting every decision. But what if the mistake becomes destiny? What if laughter turns into love? And what if the marriage they never planned becomes the one they can't live without? Secrets, chaos, unexpected love. You don't want to miss how this story unfolds. Like this video if you love dramatic Nigerian stories. Subscribe for more suspense, romance, and hilarious twists. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episode, because the next mistake might change everything. Adewale Kingsley Daramola had everything, except patience for marriage talk. At exactly 6 a.m., his smart curtains slid open on their own, letting the Lagos sunrise spill into his penthouse. The room smelled faintly of expensive cologne and automated air freshener. His bedroom looked like something out of an interior design magazine. Gray-toned walls, a floating king-size bed, LED lights tucked neatly under polished wood panels, and a glass wall that revealed the lagoon like a personal painting. Adewale sat up, checked his phone, and frowned. 3 missed calls from his mother. He sighed. "Today again?" he muttered. At 38, Adewale was one of Nigeria's youngest billionaires. Oil, real estate, fintech. His fingers were in everything that made money multiply. Newspapers called him the Golden Bachelor of Lagos. Blogs argued daily about why such a rich, handsome man was still unmarried. The answer was simple. Marriage annoyed him. Downstairs, in the open-plan living room, everything screamed wealth but silence. Italian leather sofas, a marble center table, gold accent lamps, abstract wall art nobody ever understood, and a TV bigger than some people's apartments. It was beautiful, but lonely, though Adewale would never admit that. As he sipped his black coffee, his parents arrived. Mama Daramola entered first, wearing lace and worry on her face. Behind her was Baba Daramola, calm, dignified, and already tired of the same conversation they'd been having for years. "Adewale," his mother began gently, sitting on the velvet sofa. "How long will this house remain quiet like a graveyard?" He didn't look up. "Mummy, good morning." "No grandchildren, no toys on the floor, no noise. Is this how you want your life to be?" she continued. Adewale exhaled slowly. "Marriage is not by force," he said. "I'm busy building an empire." His father cleared his throat. "Empire without heir is decoration," Baba Daramola said calmly. That sentence landed hard. Adewale stood up. "So now I'm a disappointment?" His mother's eyes watered. "We are not getting younger. Even the driver has twins." That was the final straw. "So that's it?" Adewale snapped. "Because everyone is marrying, I must marry? Because I have money, I must produce children?" The room fell silent. His father finally spoke, voice low but sharp. "When you die, Adewale, will your money call your name? Who will inherit your stubbornness?" Adewale felt heat rush through his body. He grabbed his car keys from the console table, sleek, glass-topped, and expensive, and stormed toward the door. "I need air," he said angrily. "Before I say something I'll regret." The door slammed. That night, Adewale didn't go home. Instead, he drove aimlessly until the city lights blurred into one long, glowing ribbon. He pulled into a popular upscale bar on Victoria Island. Loud music, flashing lights, laughter spilling into the night. Inside, Afrobeat thumped. Bottles clinked. Life looked careless. "Beer," he told the bartender. Then another, then another. Each sip drowned his parents' voices a little more. Marriage, children, legacy. He laughed bitterly and raised his glass. "If marriage is so important, let me see who wants it." Minutes later, standing unsteadily on a chair, Adewale shouted words that would change his life forever. "Who wants to be married?" The bar erupted in laughter, and at the counter, a woman slowly raised her hand, not for marriage, for one more beer. Adewale's eyes locked onto her, and just like that,
Fate leaned forward and smiled.
The bar was loud, but in Adewale's drunken mind, everything suddenly went quiet. Music faded into background noise. Laughter slowed. Even the flashing neon lights seemed to blink in slow motion. All he could see was the woman at the counter, her hand raised casually, as if she were answering a harmless question in a classroom. Not the most reckless question ever asked by a billionaire with too much alcohol in his system. Adewale squinted. Is she serious? He muttered. The bartender leaned toward him. Oga, sit down before you break your neck. But Adewale was already pointing dramatically. You, he declared. You are the one. The woman turned around slowly. Her name was Evelyn. She wasn't overdressed or trying too hard. Just simple jeans, a fitted top, clean sneakers, and confidence sitting on her shoulders like it paid rent. Her hair was packed into a neat bun, her face bare but sharp, and her eyes carried the kind of calm that annoyed drunk men. She raised an eyebrow. Sir, she said clearly, I didn't say I want to be married. I said I want a beer. The bar burst into laughter again. Adewale staggered closer, ignoring the mockery. What is the difference? He asked proudly. Evelyn stared at him. Plenty difference. One gives you headache, the other gives you liver problem. Someone choked on their drink. Adewale smiled. He liked her already, even though he didn't know why. Buy me the beer first, she added, turning back to the counter. The bartender shrugged at Adewale. Your future wife has spoken. Adewale slapped his black card on the counter like a challenge. 2 beers, he said, and keep them coming. They talked. At first, nonsense talk, the kind drunk people enjoy. Adewale bragged about business deals he couldn't fully explain. Evelyn laughed, correcting his grammar and teasing him for slurring big English. So, you're a billionaire? She asked, sipping her drink. Yes, he nodded seriously. Very rich. Extremely rich. Rich enough to buy stress. Evelyn chuckled. Good, because you look like stress itself. He laughed so hard he nearly fell off his stool. Minutes turned into hours. The bar grew louder. The drinks grew stronger. Somewhere between laughter and bad decisions, Adewale leaned in and said the words that would ruin both their lives, or save them. Let us go and marry. Evelyn blinked. Marry who? Me and you, he said confidently. Now. She burst out laughing. You don't even know my surname. You can change it, he replied without hesitation. Another round of laughter from nearby tables. Evelyn studied him for a moment. He looked serious, or dangerously unserious. She shook her head. Buy me one more drink, she said, standing up. Then we'll talk. That was the mistake. Minutes later, they moved out and a courthouse appeared ahead. Evelyn frowned. Why are we at court? Adewale squinted at the building. To sign something. To sign what? Love, he said proudly. She groaned. Inside, everything felt unreal. The air smelled of paper and regret. A sleepy clerk pushed documents toward them. Sign here. Here too. And here. They signed. Stamped. Witnessed. Just like that, it was done. Adewale smiled. Congratulations, Madame Dadamola. Evelyn stared at the paper. God, she whispered. I should have stayed home. They woke up hours later in a silent penthouse. Modern, spotless, intimidating. White marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows, furniture arranged like nobody ever actually lived there.
Evelyn sat up slowly and screamed, Adewale! He jumped awake. What is it? Fire? She held up the marriage certificate. Why is my name on this paper? Adewale's eyes widened. Silence filled the room. Then both of them shouted at the same time, We are married! Regret arrived instantly, uninvited and loud. But outside the window, Legos continued to move, and inside that quiet penthouse, two strangers realized they were officially, legally, and foolishly trapped together.
The silence in the penthouse was heavy, thick enough to sit on. Adewale stood in the middle of the living room, barefoot on cold marble, staring at the marriage certificate like it was a death sentence printed on expensive paper. Evelyn sat on the edge of the sofa, hair messy, eyes tired, wearing a t-shirt that clearly did not belong to her. Neither of them spoke for a full minute. Then Evelyn broke the silence. "So," she said slowly, "are you going to explain how I woke up married in a house that looks like a bank advert?" Adewale rubbed his face. "I am still trying to understand how I went from being angry at my parents to owning a wife." "Owning?" she snapped. "I mean, having," he corrected quickly. "Legally." She stood up and began pacing, her sneakers squeaking softly against the shiny floor. "I came out for a drink," she said. "One drink. Now my name is attached to a stranger who probably owns 3 helicopters." "2," Adewale said automatically, then paused. "Why am I explaining this?" Evelyn shot him a look. "See? Even your mistakes are luxury." She walked around the penthouse, opening doors like an investigator. The guest bathroom had black and gold tiles, motion sensor lights, and towels folded like they were scared of being touched. "Who lives like this?" she asked. "This house doesn't even look comfortable. It looks like it's judging me." Adewale sighed. "It's designed for success, not feelings." "Congratulations," she replied. "You've succeeded in traumatizing me." They sat at opposite ends of the massive sofa like children forced to share a bench. "So what now?" Evelyn asked. Adewale stared ahead. "We can annul it." Her eyes lit up. "Good. Immediately." "But," he added, "it won't be simple. Media, lawyers, my parents." She groaned. Billionaire problems." They both fell silent again. A housekeeper entered quietly, froze when she saw Evelyn, then bowed awkwardly. "Good morning, sir, ma'am," she said, unsure which title to use. Evelyn nearly fell off the sofa. "Ma'am?" she whispered. "Please, I want to cry." The housekeeper smiled politely. "Breakfast will be ready shortly." As she left, Evelyn burst out laughing, sharp, uncontrollable laughter. "This is insane," she said between laughs. "I don't even know your middle name." "It's Kingsley." "See? Sounds like a cartoon prince." He smiled despite himself. Breakfast was awkward. They sat across from each other at a long dining table that could seat 12 people. The chef had prepared pancakes, eggs, fruits, and smoothies like nothing unusual had happened. Evelyn poked her pancakes suspiciously. "Does your food always look this serious?" "Yes," Adewale replied. "Even my omelet has confidence." She laughed. He laughed too, softly at first, then louder. That was when something shifted. They began talking. Real talking. She told him she worked in event planning and hated unreliable people. He told him he hated noise, but secretly loved old Nigerian comedies. She teased him for arranging cushions like board members. He teased her for singing while brushing her teeth. At some point she joked, "So I married a man who doesn't know how to relax." He replied, "And I married a woman who asked for beer instead of a ring." They both laughed. The penthouse felt different, lighter. Later that evening, they stood by the window watching Lagos traffic crawl below. "This was a mistake," Evelyn said. "Yes," Adewale agreed, but neither of them moved to leave.
And that scared them more than the marriage itself. By the 4th day, the penthouse no longer felt like a crime scene. It felt like a very awkward hostel. Evelyn woke up early, confused for exactly 3 seconds, until she saw the great curtains, the automated lights, and the city of Lagos stretching endlessly outside the window. "Oh, God," she whispered, "I am still married." She dragged herself out of bed and followed the smell of coffee into the kitchen. Adewale stood there, in a fitted t-shirt and lounge pants, stirring coffee like he was negotiating with it. The kitchen was all sleek cabinets, touchscreen appliances, and marble countertops so clean they reflected her confusion. "Morning, husband," Evelyn said dryly. He choked on his coffee. "Please don't say it like that." "Like what? The truth?" They stared at each other, then both laughed awkwardly.
Living together turned out to be a daily comedy show. Adewale believed in silence, structure, and schedules. Evelyn believed in music, movement, and chaos. By noon, she had connected her phone to the sound system and was dancing around the living room to old-school Afrobeats. Adewale walked in, froze, and stared. "Why is the house shouting?" he asked. "It's music," she replied. "Your house has been mute since 2019. He sighed. "I have meetings, and I have hips," she said. "They must move." He walked away shaking his head. But later that evening, she caught him tapping his foot unconsciously. They argued. About AC temperature. About lights being left on. About why a billionaire owned 12 throw pillows nobody was allowed to sit on. "These pillows are decorative," Adewale insisted. "So is marriage," Evelyn shot back. "But here we are." Then they laughed. They also began to notice things. Adewale noticed how Evelyn always checked on the staff by name. Evelyn noticed how Adewale pretended not to care, but always made sure she ate. One night, there was a power outage. Rare, but dramatic. "NEPA has finally remembered us," Evelyn said. They sat in the living room, lit by city lights and phone torches. "This would normally stress me," Adewale admitted. "And now?" she asked. He shrugged. "Now it's quiet, in a good way." She smiled softly. Later, Adewale's parents called. His mother's voice filled the room. "My son, how is your wife?" Adewale panicked. Evelyn nearly dropped the phone laughing. "She's fine," he said. "Put her on the phone." Evelyn took it gladly. "Good evening, Ma." There was a pause. Then Mama Daramola screamed, "My God, Jesus has done it!" Evelyn pulled the phone away from her ear. After the call ended, Adewale collapsed onto the sofa. "My parents are coming tomorrow." Evelyn froze. "Tomorrow?" "Yes." She stared at him. "So I have to meet in-laws I married accidentally." "Yes." She sighed deeply. This life is a prank. They sat quietly. For the first time, the situation felt real. Not funny, not silly, real. And neither of them knew whether they were ready. The first week of marriage was chaotic. Evelyn had discovered, rather quickly, that living with a billionaire was like living in a museum where every object judged you. He had a place for everything: shoes, cufflinks, pens, even toothbrushes. And yet, somehow, everything was still messy, because she existed. On Monday morning, she opened his wardrobe, marble-floored, LED-lit, smelling faintly of cedar, and found it arranged alphabetically by color. She pulled out a T-shirt and held it up. "Do you really wear black every day?" she asked. Adewale, sipping his espresso like a king surveying his kingdom, glanced over his gold-rimmed glasses. "It is a power color," he said. "It demands respect." Evelyn laughed. "Or screams depression." Breakfast became a battlefield. Evelyn loved jollof rice with fried eggs. Adewale, predictably, had imported granola and avocado toast. One morning, she plopped her plate next to his pristine breakfast tray. "Try some jollof, my man," she said. Adewale hesitated, then took a bite. Silence. She braced herself. Then he said slowly, "This is actually edible." Evelyn threw her head back and laughed so loudly that their cat, Mr. Whiskers, jumped into the curtains. "Stop pretending you don't like it," she teased. "You're Nigerian in there somewhere." He smirked. "Maybe a little." By the third week, they were arguing less and laughing more. They found joy in the ridiculous, the kind of joy only accidental roommates could discover. Like the day Evelyn caught Adewale talking to his goldfish. "Why are you apologizing to a fish?" she asked. "Because," he said, eyes wide, "he's a sensitive creature." Evelyn shook her head, doubled over in laughter. "Adewale, you are full of surprises." Evenings became their favorite time. They would sit on the L-shaped sofa in the living room, soft yellow lights casting shadows on the modern Nigerian decor, carved wooden accents, geometric wall art, and a mixture of traditional and minimalist furniture. Adewale would tell her about boardroom dramas. Evelyn would tell him stories about office politics where the biggest scandal involved missing pens. "You're funny, Adewale," said one evening, laughing so hard that his gold watch slipped off his wrist. "You're weird," Evelyn said, "and I like it." And just like that, the laughter built bridges over their regret. One particularly quiet night, as Lagos hummed below the penthouse, Evelyn nudged him playfully. "Remember that day at the bar? When you shouted, 'Who wants to be married?'" Adewale groaned. "How could I forget? And I just raised my hand for a beer?" He laughed, shaking his head. "And yet somehow I married you anyway." Evelyn rolled her eyes but smiled softly. "Yeah," she said, "somehow." That night they stayed up talking and laughing, sharing silly stories and secret jokes. For the first time, the penthouse didn't feel like a cold display of wealth. It felt like a home. And something strange happened. They began to look forward to each other's company. Not because of obligation, not because of drunken mistakes, but because they enjoyed each other. And slowly, without realizing it, the laughter began to feel like something bigger, something deeper.
They started as strangers, trapped by signature, bonded by regret, and now by laughter. But laughter doesn't erase secrets. What happens when feelings begin to show? When jealousy knocks unexpectedly? When parents arrive with expectations? And when one of them starts to fall in love, while the other is still pretending? Will this accidental marriage survive the truth, or will love arrive too late? The next part of the story brings emotions, tension, and a twist you won't see coming. More Nigerian humor, more romance, and a decision that could change everything. Like if you're enjoying the story, subscribe for the next part of the story and more suspense-filled Nigerian stories. Turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next, because in the next part, someone's heart will no longer be joking.